out your CA worksheet as well as your textbook. Your CA worksheet. There are two summary tables. Maybe try to get a photo. These are. I'd be very curious. So what? Oh, is this supposed to be a light? Was it ever a light? Or was it ever a light? Your photo taking is at what time? 8:40. Isn't that national anthem time? 8:40, but were you all told to like go at 8:35 or something? Alright. Okay, please open your textbooks. No, actually, your CA worksheet will be more useful at this point in time. So you take out your CA worksheet, flip to the second page. There are two summary tables. These two summary tables are very useful for your revision. So please don't lose it. Okay, this table and this table. So we've half made your notes. You just got to touch it up. For those of you that prefer writing your notes, this is a very good summary table that you can also try to learn from. Okay, the scope of today's lesson, we're going to learn about animal cells and plant cells. I wouldn't say it's learning from scratch because you already learned before in primary school. Yeah? So today's lesson is really about adding on certain components that you may not have learned before. I'd like to show you a little bit of a preview of what you can expect to learn when you go to JH3 and JH4. I'd like you to look out for organelles. Organelles are like tiny organs within cells, and they are membrane bound. That means they have membrane. You will find in this video lots of organelles with membranes, especially inside plant and animal cells, but not bacteria, but prokaryotes. Don't worry, there are lots of organelles, but that is not what we're going to focus on. You will learn more about them in JH3. The only new organelle I want you to learn about is the mitochondria as well as the chloroplast.
Cells are the smallest living units of others. All cells have three different modes, no matter what type of cell they are. All cells have a cell membrane, which separates the inside of the cell from its environment. Cytoplasm, which is a jelly-like fluid, and DNA, which is the cell's genetic material. There are two broad categories of cells. The first category is eukaryotic cells. They have organelles, which include the nucleus and other special parts. Eukaryotic cells are more advanced, complex cells, such as those found in plants and animals. The second category is prokaryotic cells. They don't have a nucleus or membrane-enclosed organelles. They do have genetic material, but it's not contained in their nucleus. Prokaryotic cells are always one cell or unicellular organisms, such as bacteria. So, what are organelles? Organelle means little organ. Organelles are the specialized parts of a cell that have unique jobs to perform. Let's start with the nucleus, the control center of the cell. The nucleus contains DNA, or genetic material. DNA dictates what the cell is going to do and how it's going to do it. Chromatin is the tangled, spread out form of DNA found inside the nuclear membrane. When a cell is ready to divide, DNA condenses into structures known as chromosomes. The nucleus also contains a nucleolus, which is a structure where ribosomes are made. After ribosomes leave the nucleus, they will have the important job of synthesizing or making proteins. Outside the nucleus, the ribosomes and the rest of the organelles float around in cytoplasm, which is the jelly-like substance. Ribosomes may wander freely within the cytoplasm or attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, sometimes abbreviated as ER. There are two types of ER. Rough ER has ribosomes attached to it, and smooth ER doesn't have ribosomes attached to it. The endoplasmic reticulum is a membrane-enclosed passageway for transporting materials, such as proteins synthesized by ribosomes. Proteins and other materials emerge from the endoplasmic reticulum in small vesicles, where the Golgi apparatus, sometimes called the Golgi body, receives them. As proteins move through the Golgi body, they're customized into forms that the cell can use. The Golgi body does this by folding the proteins into usable shapes, or adding other materials onto them, such as lipids or carbohydrates. Vacuoles are sac-like structures that store different materials. Here, in this plant cell, the central vacuole stores water. Going back to the animal cell, you will see an organelle called a lysosome. Lysosomes are the garbage collectors that take in damaged or worn out cell parts. They are filled with enzymes that break down this cellular debris. The mitochondrion is an organelle that is the powerhouse for both animal and plant cells. During a process called cellular respiration, the mitochondria make ATP molecules that provide the energy for all of the cell's activities. Cells that need more energy have more mitochondria. Meanwhile, the cell maintains its shape through a cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton includes the thread-like microfilaments, which are made of protein, and microtubules, which are thin, hollow tubes. Some organisms, such as plants that are photoautotrophic, meaning they capture sunlight for energy, have cells with an organelle called the chloroplast. The chloroplast is where photosynthesis happens. It's green because it has a green pigment called chlorophyll. Plant cells also have a cell wall outside of their cell membranes that shape, support, and protect the plant cell. Animal cells never have a cell wall. There are many other unique structures that only some cells have. Here are just a few. In humans, for example, the respiratory tract is lined with cells that have cilia. These are microscopic hair-like projections that can move in waves. This feature helps trap inhaled particles in the air and expels them when you cough. Another unique feature in some cells is flagella. Some bacteria have flagella. A flagellum is like a little tail that can help a cell move or propel itself. The only human cell that has a flagellum is a sperm cell. In summary, remember, eukaryotic cells are plant and animal cells with a nucleus and membrane-enclosed organelles, while prokaryotic cells are unicellular organisms without these things. All cells have a cell membrane, cytoplasm, and genetic material. And even though only plant cells have chloroplasts, both plant and animal cells have mitochondria.
Okay. On the whiteboard, I've listed down all the organelles mentioned in the video. From nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, lysosome, mitochondria, and chloroplast. Okay, if you want to take a photo of this mind map, you can. Just want you to take note. You will learn about these in JH3, JH3, JH3. For yourself, you need to know nucleus, you need to know mitochondria, as well as chloroplast, as well as their functions. Okay, the rest for your information at this point. Okay, for the rest is FYI. But all of these are examples of membrane-bound organelles. Organelles that come with membrane. Okay, so by these three, you must know. On top of knowing these, we must be able to identify them. So you need to identify. Which we did a little bit yesterday. Yeah? Yesterday we learned how to identify mitochondria from their inner foldings. Today we're going to spend some time recapping what you learned in primary school, the functions of these parts. We're going to start off first with the nucleus. Everything in red on the screen is not in your table of summary. Okay, first and foremost is the nucleus. This is the largest membrane-bound organelle. And like the brain of the cell, it controls how the cell divides, how the cell repairs itself. Most importantly, the last red point, it contains genetic material called chromosomes. In other words, DNA. If I elaborate a little bit more about what chromosomes are really DNA. They carry information that allows you to pass information from parent to offspring, which is children. Okay, so you're expected to know the function of each part of the cell. In primary school, maybe your teacher just told you about the parts, but you're expected to know the function at the JC level. The next part of the cell, you've learned before. Actually, everything you've learned before, we're just adding on some more. It's the cytoplasm. What did you learn before in primary school about the cytoplasm? What did your teacher say? Sorry? Okay, teacher always says it's jelly-like substance, right? Actually, what's the function of the cytoplasm? Okay, cytoplasm is a space where things can move inside, all the organelles. Xavier? Sorry? It's a container. Do you say it's a container? Yeah, it's a space where you contain all the organelles. It's a space where all the reactions take place. Everything that happens in a cell takes place in the cytoplasm. Okay, so next structure, the cytoplasm. You learned the structure before. What is the function? It is where a lot of chemical reactions take place. If a cell is going to break things down, this is where it's going to break it down. If a cell is going to build new things, this is the place where it's going to build new things. Okay, so that's the cytoplasm. So we'll come to the new parts. The next part will be the cell membrane, sometimes known as the plasma membrane also. And what you learned before in primary school about the function of the cell membrane? Okay, allow substances to go in and out. Xavier? Okay, so to be very specific, it controls what goes in and out. There's a level of control there. Doesn't let anything in and out. So I think, I'm not sure if your primary school teacher used the word before, selectively permeable. Selectively permeable means it's very selective in what it allows through. Permeable means can go through. Selectively permeable means I'm very careful about what I let through or not. Or, as Xavier put it, it controls the substances entering and leaving the cell. Next two are the ones that you may not have learned in primary school before. Okay, this one depends on primary school. Some primary schools taught their students vacuoles. You know which one of you heard of this before? Vacuoles? Only some primary schools did. Okay, so the next two structures, last two are for animal cells. First and foremost, vacuoles. You see these small little circles drawn within the cell? Those are vacuoles. Vacuoles are also membrane bound. Their function is to store substances, for example, water, food, nutrients. It's like a storage house for organisms to survive. And then there's a new organelle that we learned yesterday, the mitochondria. Here it says it is the site of cellular respiration to produce energy. The word cellular respiration, we'll learn more in JH3. So I think you can focus instead on its function. It produces energy. I'm going to escape the slides for a while. You can insert the word chemical energy to be more specific. Oh, no more short quizzes, it's straight to YA area. But we will be fair to you, we have to provide you some past papers now. So you know what the exam will be like. Sorry? Yes. Joshua? Next, we go to plant cells. Okay, when we look at a plant cell, you will find that it contains many similar structures to animal cells. For one, plant cells also have mitochondria. Number two, you also have cell membrane. Number three, you have nucleus. You also have the chromosomes inside the nucleus. You also have cytoplasm. These are all common things. That's why you find in your summary notes, we didn't get you to recopy the same thing. It's the same function, same structure. Instead, we'll focus on what's different. For one, the vacuole in plant cells are not numerous and small. It just has one big one in the middle to store as much water as possible. We have given you the structure. The function is what I want you to focus on. Why have such a big vacuole? So that it can store lots of water to keep it very firm. If this vacuole has lost water, then you will see the plant start to wilt. Not very limpy. But you see plants out there standing upright, that's because their vacuoles are filled with water. It keeps them very firm. So that's difference number one. The vacuole is very big compared to the animal cell one. Do all plant cells look like rectangles? That's not true. In fact, I would say a lot of them don't look like rectangles. That day when you're looking under the microscope, you saw your plant cells. A lot of them look kind of very odd shape. Yeah? But at the very least, what is still similar is that they will at least still come with a cell wall, even though they don't have this rectangular shape. So this is just a general model. We draw it as a simplification, but in real life, structure is not always the case. I heard before in primary school you learn about a plant cell called root hair cell. Yeah. Or root cell. Yeah? Wow, then the root cell is very cute. It even comes with one protrusion. Right? Looks nothing like the typical rectangular cell. But does it still have the common parts? Yeah, it has a cell wall, cell membrane, nucleus, so on and so forth. Does it have? Vacuole, yeah. It will have the vacuole also. Where mitochondria will also have mitochondria inside. Except you won't have chloroplast. Next organelle that is different, that animal cells do not have, the chloroplast. Oops, sorry, let's start with the cell wall. The cell wall is this outer layer. That's the cell wall. Where can you label the cell wall? You can either label it as the outer line or anywhere in between. That's still counted as a cell wall. And I think you learned before in primary school, this is what gives plants structure. So plant cells cannot really change their shape, unlike animal cells. And we need it to be the case because plants Needs to be very sturdy. Yes. Because we need to move. Yeah? We need to move to collect our nutrients. Unlike plants, which can photosynthesize to make their own food, so they stay put and sturdy, that's fine. For us, we need to go around and search for food. So we cannot be stiff creatures. Isaac?
What is inside this?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. So, the cell wall shown over here looks like it's blank space, right? Some students think that, is it filled with water? Is it filled with liquid? Actually, it's not. It's just a very thick layer made up of a material called cellulose over here. But if I were to pinpoint what cellulose is in something that's more understandable to you, you know when you eat vegetables, then there's a lot of stuff you cannot digest and then you shit out, right? All that material is what you find in the cellulose. It is quite hard to digest. It's very structurally very firm. Keeps plants very stiff and rigid. Yes, Daryl. Yes, Jet. Oh, mitochondria is a blank and function for the plant one, is it? It should be the same. Yeah, it should be the same. Function is the same. Produce chemical energy. Last but not least, for plant cells, is this structure called the chloroplast. In a while, I will teach you how to identify chloroplasts. Just like now, you can identify mitochondria. But you've learned this before. Chloroplast contains chlorophyll so that it can trap light to produce food. So really, for JH1, what's really new to you is this mitochondria. Xavier? What do fungal cells look like? They look kind of like animal cells. That's a good question. I think they do. I think they do, but they are cell wall made of different material, not cellulose. Some other form of. Sorry? Or like mushroom, is it? There are many kinds of fungus, but the reason why we categorize them together is because they share similar features. So, if I'm not wrong, they do have a form of cell wall. It may not be called cell wall, but they do have a structure that helps to keep them also quite firm. How do they latch on? They latch on because they also produce root-like structures. Not really roots, but they also can produce structures that can anchor themselves into these dead organisms, and then from there they can digest and absorb. Oh, okay. Do fungal cells have organelles? That's a good question. I believe they do, yes, because they are also eukaryotes. They also can be, they are part under eukaryotes. That means they confirm have these membrane bound organelles. And your question is, do they have specific organelles to digest? They likely do. For example, lysosomes in animal cells and plant cells, they are able to help digest things. So it's within reason that fungal cells also have something similar to help digest things. Now, let's learn how to identify chloroplasts, real chloroplasts. A chloroplast in cartoon drawings like that. Chloroplast is quite special. They have 3 membranes, but you learn more in JH3. If you look at chloroplast as an outer membrane, inside you'll find many small little discs. These discs, from a side view, it will look something like that. You'll have the outer membrane, then you'll find lots of discs stacked up upon each other. In these discs is where photosynthesis will take place. Let's look at mitochondria. Mitochondria looks like that. The inner membrane, highly folded. Yesterday we learned how to identify mitochondria from animal cells. Plant cells also have mitochondria. Not just animal cells, because both kinds of cells need energy, chemical energy to survive. Let's look at a plant cell here. Can you see the chloroplast? Actually, it's so obvious that you can count how many chloroplasts there are. 6 ah? Oh yeah. Okay, can you see 6 chloroplasts? And I think one learning point here is that chloroplasts are actually really huge. Okay, they are so big that sometimes they are comparable in size to the nucleus. Actually, in this diagram, in this photograph here, there's also mitochondria. Can you see the mitochondria?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's actually mitochondria here with a lot of inner foldings. These are also mitochondria, lots of inner foldings. Why am I showing this photo? It shows you, it gives you a sense of scale. Actually, mitochondria is very, very small. Compared to organelles such as nucleus, as well as the chloroplast. Chloroplast actually is quite big. Okay? But can you see a mitochondria under the microscope? Your normal microscope that you use in class at night. You cannot see. But chloroplast is almost as big as nucleus sometimes. So you actually can see chloroplast under the microscope. So which ones can you see under the microscope? This one, you can see under the microscope. You can also see the nucleus. You can see, oh, that's all you can see. Okay, other than that, you can see the cell membrane and the cytoplasm. That's about all you'll be able to see, as well as the cell wall, under the normal microscope you use. This microscope used here is very, very, very powerful. It doesn't go up 40 times, can go up to 1,000 over times. Next, you can see, not in all plant cells, okay, this is obvious, but here you can see one large space. There is a large vacuole that you won't find in animal cells. Let's look at another example. Can you see the chloroplast? Xavier? This one over here, is it? The nucleus is the on the left hand side, the one with that dot inside. Oh, we wouldn't really consider the vacuole an organelle per se. It is a space that contains fluids. Yeah. Okay, so you can differentiate between nucleus and vacuole usually by what's inside. Usually inside the nucleus there's a lot of dots. That's what the chromosomes are. All those dot stuff, that's the chromosomes. Let's look at this cell over here. That circle? Oh, that circle is not the chromosomes. That's another structure you learn about in JH3. How many chloroplasts can you see in this plant cell? 4, yeah? Okay, there's one here, another one here, another one here. This is a vacuole. This is a nucleus. What's your question? Okay, how do you differentiate between nucleus and the vacuole? Again, usually the nucleus comes with all these dark dot patches. Those are the chromosomes. By JH3, this will look very familiar to you, although it looks overly complicated now. The ones that you should be able to know are the nucleus, the mitochondria, the jelly-like substance surrounding it, the cell membrane. Those are the basics you are expected to know. When you go to plant cells, you're expected to know the cell wall, which is this outer layer here, the chloroplast, the mitochondria in the plant cell, the large vacuole, and the nucleus. Every other organelle you learn in JH3 and 4. Yes?
Is it like there's a cell membrane around the vacuole that makes it within the
Okay, Isaac asks, this large vacuole here, is it a cell membrane? Okay, so I would say that the word membrane, every time you see the word membrane, it is made up of that material. What is it made up of? It's actually made up of fats. Okay, the membranes are made up of fats. If I add the word cell membrane in front, it means that it is referring to the membrane wrapping the entire cell. But if I remove the word cell and I put, for example, vacuole membrane, then it's referring to the membrane of the vacuole. If I remove this and put nuclear membrane, that means I'm referring to the membrane of the nucleus. So my answer to you is that the membrane used to make the vacuole is of the same material as the cell membrane. The membrane used to make the chloroplast and the mitochondria is also the same material used to make the cell membrane. It's just that we refer it differently. So I could say the mitochondrial membrane, the chloroplast membrane, the nuclear membrane, the vacuole membrane, and then the biggest membrane of them all, the cell membrane. They're actually all made up of fats. Xavier? But the difference here between the air bubble underwater and all these membrane-bound organelles is that the air bubble actually does not have a membrane, right? It's just purely air in the middle of water. What would be closer is if I blew air bubbles. For example, if I blow a bubble into air and then the bubbles come out, that will be closer to a membrane-bound organelle because there's actually a membrane of bubble. And believe it or not, actually when you blow bubbles, the material used to make the bubbles is quite similar to the material used to make all the membranes itself. I'm going to pass around your RE for this worksheet. There are some questions we can try now. We complete some in class, then you have less to do. Let me tell you which questions you can already attempt. Might as well since we've just learned it. So, may I get you to flip to page 3 of your RE? Question 9. Will you try question 9 now? We just went through the various parts. If you understood what was happening in class, question 9 should be a breeze for you. Everyone try question 9. This is an example of a question of how we can assess your understanding of function and structure. Okay, go to question 9. We try question 9 now. Oh, it is as you would describe it. After you try question 9, then you can try the MCQs on the first page. Okay, but why you do question 9 first up? neuron? Neuron is a brain cell. A cell that you can find in the brain. MCQ 6 and 8 may be a bit challenging because we haven't really gone in depth in it yet. Okay, if you are going and doing more, don't do 10B onwards. 10B onwards, we haven't really completed the lesson for that yet. But 10A is still possible. Okay, in about 1 minute's time, I'm going to go through the answers. Mr. Ahmad need to take your. They just take his thing. But he was your top teacher. Okay. Could I get you to flip to page 1? I'm going to go through the MCQs. I appreciate that a lot of you have already gone on to do even 10A. Okay, that means you have very, very little homework left to do. Okay, let's look at question 1. Which statement correctly describes a cell? Zarisa? C. It is the basic building unit of all living things. That's okay? You can give yourself a tick. Why is it not right to say it is the smallest component of all living things? Yes, Kade?
Because component can mean anything smaller.
Yeah. So even like water, right? That's also a component. Organelles are components also. Xavier, you want to say something? Okay, let's look at number 2. What can you conclude from this experiment about the role of the nucleus in the amoeba? Okay. Maybe Alistair? C. The nucleus is essential for cell division, produce more amoeba. Okay. Let's look at the front part. They say amoeba had its nucleus removed. After removed, it can still move and feed, but it cannot reproduce. This experiment proves that actually nucleus is not quite important for moving and feeding. To observe this better, they have a second amoeba to compare. And they notice that the second amoeba can reproduce twice and produce 4 new amoeba, whereas the first one cannot. So this is a good conclusion. At least for this experiment, nucleus is essential for division. Some of you may be asking, isn't the function of the nucleus also to help it control its activities? It's true, but this experiment's purpose is not to show that. Thank you, Lester. Question 3. Question 3. Hong Yi. Question 3. Sorry? Dog, is it? D for, did you say D? D, okay. D for dog. So what is the function of the number parts? Which part controls entry of substances? Number 4. That is correct. It cannot be number 2. Number 2 is the cell wall. Which part produces sugar or food? Number 3, the chloroplast. So D for dog is the correct answer. Okay, let's flip the next page. How are you doing so far? Sorry, Xavier. Okay, question 4. Which statement is not true about cell wall? Sophie? Sorry? B. It is a selectively permeable membrane. This is a good choice. Then which part of the cell is selectively permeable? The cell membrane, okay? So it's a misconception. Students sometimes think the cell wall can do the same thing. It doesn't. In fact, the cell wall is fully permeable. Things can flow through it very well. It is like, have you ever seen those HDB? Outside HDB, there's a lot of metal scaffolding. The cell wall is just like that. Provides structure, but a lot of things can pass through. Samuel?
Is it like a security guard that's not
I wouldn't even call him a security guard. You know what it's like? It is like if I put up a fake dummy or put up a sign and says don't go through. Those kind of things useless. Right? Okay, next one. Question 5. Which row correctly shows the function of the mitochondria where it can be found? Rashmika? C. To release energy for cell activities, correct? Can be found in animal and plant cells, correct? A lot of students think it can only be found in animal cells. That's not true. Definitely not only found in plant cells. Okay, I will not go through 6 first, as well as 8, although some of you have done it already. Let's look at question 7. Which structures are present in a human red blood cell? Sichuan? B for boy. So, can you find cell membrane? Yes. Cell wall? No, it's not plant cell. Chloroplast? No, it's not plant cell. Cytoplasm? Yes. If I have one more column for nucleus, you can also go across, because you shouldn't find a nucleus in a mature red blood cell. Let's now go to question 9, the question I asked you to do before some of you, or a lot of you, started doing all the MCQs. Okay, so I only have 4 more questions to go through from 9A to D. 9A, what is the selectively permeable cell boundary? Kaisen? Cell membrane. 9B, the site where light energy is converted to chemical energy. Joshua? Chloroplast, thank you. 9C, site where cellular DNA can be found in nucleus. Last but not least, site where most chemical energy needed by the cell is generated. Amy? Mitochondria. Okay? And there are some leftover organelles there, purposely put there so that you have too many options to choose from. 9B, yeah? Oh, the site where light energy is converted to chemical energy, is it? You okay? Okay, you're asking about the site where light energy is converted to chemical energy, right? So maybe you saw the word chemical energy, you're thinking about chemical reactions. Is it? Okay. But when you see the word light energy, the only one place that, or organelle that can use light energy will be the chloroplast. Cytoplasm is where a lot of other chemical reactions take place, but not specifically the one that converts light to chemical energy. Okay? Yes? Yeah. Yeah. Are you asking, can the animal cell gain too much water in their vacuoles and burst also? Because there's a limit to the size of the small vacuole. The small vacuoles can only expand that much. Even if it does gain liquids, right, it cannot expand to the point the cell bursts. But the cell can burst if the cytoplasm gains too much water. So it is actually a process. If you put cells inside salt water, inside pure water, too much water gets entered and the cells will burst. Xavier, okay, last question for today, and yeah, I think I have to release you for the photo taking. That's why you look like an old man when you step out of water. Oh, okay, it is a different process. Scientists believe that the reason why after you step out of water you turn all wrinkly is because there's a Yeah, it's an evolutionary trait. They believe that notice underwater actually you have very poor grip on things. But because of that, your body adapts by becoming more wrinkly. This more wrinkly means there are more folds on your fingers, right? And actually you can hold things better with more friction. So that's what scientists believe is happening. But it's not because water is leaving your cells. That's why it's making you wrinkly. Yeah. But a lot of people thought that it used to be like that. That it's getting wrinkly because water is leaving your cells. Okay, so we will continue on to the worksheet in the next lesson. By the next lesson, we will be almost done with the topic of cells. Then we will be moving on to the chemistry topics. Last two topics for the year. Okay, which one will be most heavily tested? To be fair to you, you go and think back. The topics that we spend a lot of time on, proportionally speaking, is fairer if we test you more on those. The topics we spend very little time on, proportionally speaking, we also will spend less on. Yeah, the next chemistry topics will be quite big. We'll spend quite a lot of time. Okay, that's all. Thank you, class. You can go and prepare for your birthday. Okay, thank you, 06. Thank you. I don't know if you all will be caught halfway. That's right. Yeah, you have PE after photo taking, right? You all want to prepare for that also? From my experience, around 15 minutes. Sorry about. How do you all know they never do it? Wow. Oh, okay, okay. Bye.